Hi everyone, it's Ruth. In this video, we're going to talk a little bit about the supplies that you'll find in your creative kit, in your printmaking box. There's a lot of supplies in here, but we're going to go through each of them and talk a little bit about some other supplies you can use. So once you get your kit in the mail, you'll open it up. The first thing you'll see are some papers. So just want to kind of go over those first. That very first pack is the welcome packet. In here, it talks about the different times for the Zoom sessions, the different links, or in the links you can use to join us for those live sessions. There's also the link to our Facebook page that you're invited to be a part of as well. In here, this first letter is just kind of a little bit of background information and what to expect, important information. But once you turn the page, you'll see a list of contents. This is what we're going to be going through right now. Everything that's in the kit is going to be listed here, so you'll have a running list of what you need. This next page in the welcome packet is really helpful. It's a list of supplies by project. This is helpful because it shows you what we're going to be doing next. It'll show the supplies that you need that come in the kit, the supplies that you need that are not included in the kit, and some optional supplies that you can bring in for that week's project. So like I said, this one's a really good one to hang on to. And that's the welcome packet. One of the things that we've done different this year than we did in previous kits is that on the back of the welcome packet, there's a list of supplies and links. So if you enjoy these projects, you want to do some more printmaking, these are the links to the supplies that we've included in the kit. So you're able to purchase more. Of course, you'll see as we're going through this, we'll talk about some other options as well if you want to try out some things that are different in the kit. But that's that welcome packet. The next paper that you'll see in the kit is a packet of illustrated instructions. This is something that we're going to use every week. Our illustrated instructions are kind of the how-to, they're the recipe card for each of these projects. And they're all laid out the same way. A list of supplies at the top, and then that process step by step. Each week, I'll guide us through those projects, but this is that recipe card that you can continue to use, take notes on, or share. I also say, too, if this is something that you don't enjoy, let's say you didn't enjoy this first project, you can tear it up and throw it away. Sometimes it feels good to kind of toss something out, too. But these illustrated instructions are ones that we're going to use every week. So that'll be in the kit as well. The next thing you'll notice is a clean sheet of paper. We'll be using this for one of our projects later on. This is just a regular sheet of copy paper, so it's nothing special. If you do have copy paper on hand, you can use that, but there's one sheet in there that we're going to be using. So next, let's get into our supplies. The first thing you'll see is probably the most important tool. This is the main tool for a printmaker, and this is called a brayer, which is really just a fancy word for roller. The thing that makes this one different from other rollers is that it is a rubber roller. It's a smooth surface. You can feel that if you touch it. The reason we want that smooth surface is because it gives us an even coat of pigment on whatever surface we're working on. And so this brayer is going to be really handy to have on. So that's one of the main supplies in our kit. The next thing you'll notice may be a Ziploc bag that has pigment in it. So you'll see 3 different colors, a red, a blue, and a yellow. These are acrylic paints that we'll be using in a few of our projects. This brand may not be the one that you get in your kit. We have a couple different brands that we're using, but the truth is you can bring in any type of acrylic paint. It's a good pigment to use for printing because it's easy to clean up and it dries quickly. But the downside to acrylic paint is that it dries quickly. So you have to kind of work somewhat quickly with each of these processes. One of the things you'll also see in the kit is some black ink. It may be in a tube like this, or it may be in a little Tupperware container with a black lid. Either way, it's block printing ink. This is one of the main inks, the main pigments that printmakers use when it comes to printmaking. It's a thicker pigment, which is really nice, like kind of a thick creamy peanut butter kind of pigment. But the good thing about this block printing ink is that it doesn't dry quickly. It takes a little while for it to dry, so you don't have to work at a fast pace. So we'll be using that block printing ink for a few of our projects as well. Again, just want to say, even though there's only 3 pigments in here, you can use different colors. You can blend these to make colors, or you can bring in your own acrylic paints as well. That's kind of our bag of pigments that we'll be using. The next thing that you may notice is a box of gelatin. In our 4th session, we'll be working on a jelly plate, and we'll be making our own. And so that box of gelatin is how we make our own plate. Now you can definitely buy a jelly plate. They are on the pricier side, but we'll talk about a recipe and how to make our own plates. But that pack of gelatin has 4 envelopes in it. And this is just a regular gelatin that you can find at the grocery store that you can use to make jellies and things like that. So you'll find that in your kit. The next thing you'll see is a pair of disposable gloves. Now we are using pigment, we're using paint and block printing ink, so it might get a little messy. And so having those disposable gloves is a great way to kind of keep our hands clean. While I'm talking about the gloves, I just want to say, if you do get that pigment on your hands, know that it comes off pretty quickly with just a little bit of soap and water, so it won't stain. While we're talking about protection, though, it's always good to cover your work surface, protect your work surface. So if you use like a piece of foil or newspaper, a disposable tablecloth, or even some wax paper, that's good for kind of protecting the surface. And anytime you're working with paint or ink, it's always good to wear clothes that you don't mind getting messy, or an apron. I always wear an apron when I'm working with paints and pigments, and it just kind of protects my body and protects my space as well. So those disposable gloves, you'll be able to use multiple times if you like, but they're in the kit as well. The next thing you'll see is a styrofoam plate, or a little styrofoam tray. This is really just a basic styrofoam plate. We're going to be using this for one of our projects. We'll be carving into it. If you happen to notice that your plate is too small or a little damaged, know that that's okay too. Typically what I use is just a plain styrofoam plate to use some of the processes. So if you don't have that small styrofoam tray, you can use any type of styrofoam plate for the process that we'll be doing in this series as well. So you have that. Also in the kit, you'll find a paintbrush. We'll use this a couple times in this series. And it's just a regular paintbrush. It has some stiff bristles, which are the best kind for printmaking, the type of printmaking that we're doing. But you'll see that paintbrush in there. Now you can always bring in other paintbrushes that you have with you. Because we're using acrylic paint and a water-based block printing ink, it cleans from your brushes pretty easily. And you can use just regular soap and water, dish soap, hand soap, and water to clean your brush off. So this brush will be handy for a couple of our projects. The next thing in our kit is going to be this foam piece of foam, I guess, a small piece of foam. It has an adhesive backing, so it's got that paper cover on the back. We're going to be using this for one of our projects today. You can use in that project, or in that process, you'll be able to use some different supplies too, and we'll talk more about that as we go through that series. But this piece of adhesive foam is going to be really great for one of our projects. That's something you'll see in there. It may be a different color, but the color doesn't really matter as long as you have that foam that has that adhesive backing. Next in the kit, you'll see a sketchbook. We're going to be using this sketch paper as our basic paper for all our printmaking processes. When it comes to paper for printmaking, generally you want something that has a smoother surface. That smooth surface will give us a clean transfer of pigment. And so if you use something that has a rougher texture, you're going to get kind of a spotted transfer. So the smoother the paper, the better. We're going to be using that sketch paper in this series, but you can also use things like construction paper or copy paper. You'll also be able to use things like magazine pages or wrapping paper, calendar pages, things like that. We're again all sorts of wonderful papers that you can use. But again, you want that smoother surface. That's going to be better for printing. And then the last thing in our kit is a sheet of plexiglass. Now, this is something we're going to use in a couple of our projects. We'll do it in our first one and later on in that series as well. One of the things that you may notice is that there's a protective sheet on the top and bottom of the plexiglass, and you can pull that off or leave it on. It doesn't matter either way. I typically leave mine on because once I pull it off, it's a clear sheet of plexiglass, and sometimes it's hard to find. So leaving that protective cover on helps me kind of keep an eye on it. But you can use that plexiglass. Let's say you want to do a print that's maybe a different size. One of the things that I do to get different size plates is I'll go to the dollar store and buy picture frames and use the glass that's in those picture frames. That's an easy way to get a plate to work off of. So that's the last thing that's in the kit. If you have any questions as you're going through your kit, any questions about specific supplies or other things that you can use, please feel free to reach out to us at our contact@Mather email or by reaching out to us on our Facebook page. We're so happy to have you with us doing this project, and happy printing, everyone. We'll see you soon.